All right, y'all. Before I get into this one, I need to set something up for y'all. Last episode, we talked about the man side of everything in that hard season. When you take that confidence hit, the identity shift part, what it feels like when life is changing your role and nobody prepared you for it. And the response I got from that, it clearly showed me that we are only talking about half the story. Because every hard season that a man goes through, his relationship goes through it too. And the person that's on the other side of him, she's navigating through something too. Without a manual for that either. It's without context. Sometimes without knowing the questions to ask. So today, we're talking about both sides of that room. Starting with the question that nobody really asks. What do you do when the person that you love is still there, but the version of them that you built a good rhythm around is going through something? Sometimes your person didn't disappear. Life just changed what they're carrying right now. 1 minute, everything could be okay. The bills is handled, y'all go on your late night dates, you get those gifts coming through from Amazon. Y'all know what I'm talking about. The energy is good. Everybody's laughing. And then boom, life hits your relationship. A job loss, maybe an injury, the depression that hits, the burnout that hits, a season that nobody ever ordered on the menu. And now your relationship has to learn from a new playbook mid-game. No timeouts, no motivational speech. It's just, we need to figure this out together, like right now, with everything still in motion. And if you don't understand what's actually happening in that moment, you start taking survival a little too personal. And today we're going to talk about that part. Welcome to Word Forward, y'all, where we build structured clarity in this noisy world together. I'm your host, Damien J Branch, and this is episode 15. And let me be clear, before we go anywhere in this episode, I want to say this is not a man versus woman conversation right now. This is not a blame game. There's no scorekeeping here. This is about how two people can survive a hard season together. Because if you don't know what season your person is sitting in, you'll start treating their coping like a personal attack. So let's talk about that. Hard seasons change both people in the relationship. The man, the woman, the energy in your house, the whole temperature of the relationship. And here's the thing that nobody actually ever warns you about. Fear sounds different depending on who's carrying it, right? He's thinking, how do I fix these things? I'm supposed to have all the answers. What if I can't pull us through these situations? What if she stops believing in me? And then she starts thinking, are we going to be okay right now? Why won't he talk to me for real? Is he pulling away from me? Am I losing this? What do I do with all the fear that I'm sitting with right now? The same house, same pressures, two completely different internal conversations are happening. Men go inward. We get quiet. We start processing. We start to try to figure out things before we even speak. Women usually go outward. They have a need to talk, a need to feel the connection, to see if it's still intact for real. It's two different operating systems, right? But they're running on the same crisis, using different windows to look through. His silence might read like abandonment to her, but her need to talk, it might sound like pressure to him. And when he has no answers yet, he'll go quiet, but she'll get louder. And now it just looks like conflict, but it never really was. It's just two people scared of the same situation in different languages neither of them ever learned for the moment that they're in right now. And ladies, can I say something real respectful for a minute? Sometimes a man isn't distant with you. He just doesn't know how to explain what he's losing internally. And that's a different thing. But that different thing matters. Most of us as men, we were raised that showing struggle is weakness. We were always told to man up, don't cry, just figure it out. And that's what got modeled to us. And what gets modeled in your childhood, right? It just becomes your default setting when life applies that real pressure in your adulthood. So when a hard season actually shows up, his first instinct isn't to open up. It's to try to fix it quietly before anybody notices that it's really broken. Which means by the time he's ready to say something, he's been carrying the news alone for about weeks now, maybe even months. And that weight, it'll change how he shows up. Men just get quiet, more irritable, less present in the environment. It's not because they stop loving you, because he's just trying to protect you, protect you from things that he didn't really solve yet. But you'll feel that change. And without the real context behind it, all you have is the results to go on. It just looks like he doesn't care anymore. Or maybe he's just changing up on you. It looks like the love isn't the same between you both. But sometimes the way he loves you is exactly the same. He's just fighting something that's inside himself. And he doesn't have the words for it yet. So it goes quiet. The silence isn't rejection. It's the sound of a man that's not trying to fall apart in front of the person whose opinions actually matter to him. Stop taking survival personally, people. They're not pulling away from you. They're trying to hold on to you. Just sit with that one for a second while I be clear about something else. I'm not talking about the men who checked out, right? The ones that are just on the couch all day long, not moving, not even trying, not showing up in any form or fashion. The ones that make excuses for standing still. That's a whole different conversation. I'm actually talking about the men who are trying, the ones that have to heal from something, the ones that are rebuilding right now, the ones that are making the pivot and are still showing up, even when showing up is the hardest thing to do on their list for the day. That man, he just needs time, a little bit of grace, a partner that still believes in the outcome, even when the scoreboard isn't reflecting it yet. Because believe me, life already humbled him. He doesn't need his home to feel like another place he's failing. Another battle that he has to conquer. The house should be the one place that the scoreboard disappears, where the man doesn't have to perform his recovery. He could just actually recover in peace. And ladies, let me say something carefully right now. During these hard seasons, this is usually when your man needs more reassurance from you. Not pity, not a performance review of everything he hasn't done for you yet. Just some reassurance, affection, more encouragement, more patience, some belief, his partner. Here's what's actually happening underneath all of that. A man is not just usually dealing with his problems. He's dealing with what that problem is doing to his sense of self, the self-confidence part, his identity, feeling like whether he's still the man that he said he was going to be. And the one thing that could break him down the fastest in that moment isn't the obstacle. It's feeling like the person that he loves the most is starting to see him like less of a man. That feeling will never motivate him to want to do more. It just confirms the fears that he's already losing to. But when she shows up with him, for him, when that affection is still hitting, when she still moves like the partner, it doesn't fix the problem. It stabilizes the man that's trying to solve it, though. And a stabilized man, he'll think clearer, he'll move better, and he fights harder for that future that he's trying to build with you. You'll become the reason that he keeps going, not just another thing that he has to manage. And I'll say this carefully, too. This isn't an obligation for real. This isn't a you owe me something type of thing. This is just what real connection does. It holds people up when they fully can't be their own crutch. Now, this part is for both of y'all. The season isn't the problem, and it's not each other. And scorekeeping, it never ends good between neither one of y'all. That I did this for you. You don't do enough for me. I show more effort than you do. Yo, you changed up on me. And now y'all just fighting each other instead of fighting that situation together. You're just allies, treating each other like opponents in that moment. And that's a strategy that's going to lose every single time. Marriage isn't a math problem. Relationships aren't math problems. Sometimes it's 80-20, Sometimes it's 70-30. Sometimes one person carries more in that season than the other one. But that's not what failure looks like. That's partnership doing what it's supposed to do in real time. Never confuse the season for the destination. Hard right now doesn't mean broken forever. And don't treat temporary moments like it's permanent either. Some people usually let go right before that season shifts. And then they spend years wondering what would have happened if they just held the line one more round. Just stop taking survival personally. When your person goes quiet in them hard seasons, they're not pulling away from you. They're trying to hold on to what y'all built together. Honestly, that's the difference between the relationships that make it through it and the ones that don't. It's just usually one person that understands that part at exactly the right moment they need to. And this is where maturity usually shows up in that moment. You need to learn each other's language for real, especially when life gives you pressure and tests. Yes, love is the reason to stay together. Communication is the glue and the skill that actually makes sticking together work. And skills have to be learned in real time. They don't just arrive because you say, I care enough. Sometimes your partner is not being mean to you. They just overwhelmed with what's going on. Sometimes they're not being cold on purpose. They're just scared. Sometimes they're not trying to be distant in the relationship. They're just using their survival mode, everything that they ever learned to stay functional. But then sometimes there's nothing left over for performance. The strongest couples learn to lead with a different set of questions. It's not, why are you acting like this with me right now? But more, what do you really need from me right now? It's the same situation, but it's a completely different door that you can open up. The first one puts somebody on a trial watch, but the second one makes them feel safe enough to open up to you for real and to actually answer you with honesty. I realize that without a verbal safety net, you'll never really get honesty from your partner. You'll just get a performance, and two people performing with each other can share a household for years without ever connecting with each other for real. The language isn't really hard to learn, seriously, but it just needs more of you to care about the answer, that's all, than caring more about who's being right and wrong in the moment. For real, that right there is the whole point. Maybe the person that you love isn't broken. Maybe they're just trying to figure out who they are in the season they're in. And maybe understanding each other, it just starts from learning each other's languages. Just for moments like this one. The strongest couples don't just become strong out of nowhere. Like life stayed easy for them. They're stronger because they figured out how to adjust to the terrain together. When the roles change, love isn't supposed to fall apart. If this hit, share this with somebody that's navigating through things like this right now. A husband, a wife, a couple that's in the middle of a season that they never planned for. Follow Word Forward on all platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And drop a comment and tell me something. What's the one thing that helped your relationship survive those hard seasons? I want to read those, and I'm going to respond back too. The inner circle's in the description when we can go deeper on this conversation. This is Word Forward, y'all. I'll see you in the next one.